In the heart of Riverville, a seemingly innocent cafe rendezvous ignited a scandal that would captivate the entire town. This article delves into the origins of the rumors, the town's explosive reaction, and the defense mounted by the alleged cheating wife, Mrs. Eleanor Kensington. Join us as we unravel the tale that has everyone talking. Have you ever found yourself in this kind of sticky situation? Or maybe you've faced some wild and outrageous accusations in the past? Oh, we definitely want to hear that juicy story. So, let's dive into it. But hey, before we get started, don't forget to click that follow button below to stay updated with our latest, most scandalous stories. Trust me, you won't want to miss them. 1. The Café Rendezvous, where the rumors began. The humble cafe, a place where caffeine dreams come true, croissants are devoured with reckless abandon, and, apparently, where the seeds of scandal are sown. Riverville's quaint little cafe, been there, done that, was the epicenter of what would become the juiciest gossip this side of the Mississippi. Picture it, a cozy nook with mismatched chairs, the aroma of freshly ground coffee beans wafting through the air, and a barista who could double as a therapist. It was here that the whispers began, and oh, what whispers they were. It all started on a seemingly ordinary Tuesday morning. The sun was shining, birds were chirping, and Mrs. Eleanor Kensington, Riverville's very own socialite and part-time yoga instructor, was seen entering the cafe with a man who was decidedly not her husband. Now, in any other town, this might have gone unnoticed. But in Riverville, where everyone knows everyone else's business, and their great-aunt's business too, this was akin to a five-alarm fire. The man in question was none other than Dr. Gregory Hargrove, the town's charming veterinarian. Known for his impeccable bedside manner with both pets and their owners, Dr. Hargrove was a beloved figure in Riverville. But his presence with Mrs. Kensington had been there, done that, set tongues wagging faster than you can say double espresso. The first to spot them was Mabel Thompson, Riverville's unofficial mayor of gossip. Mabel had a sixth sense for scandal and a penchant for eavesdropping that would make Sherlock Holmes proud. She watched as Eleanor and Dr. Hargrove settled into a corner booth, their heads bent close together in what appeared to be an intimate conversation. Mabel's eyes widened, her heart raced, and she knew she had struck gold. Within minutes, Mabel had texted her inner circle, a group of women who could rival the CIA in information gathering, and the news spread like wildfire. By noon, half the town knew that Eleanor Kensington had been seen canoodling with Dr. Hargrove over lattes and lemon scones. Of course, the details of their conversation were anyone's guess. Some speculated they were discussing Eleanor's poodle, Fifi, who had recently developed a mysterious limp. Others were convinced it was something far more salacious, a torrid affair that would make even the most seasoned soap opera writer blush. As the day wore on, the story grew legs. By evening, it had evolved into a full-blown scandal with embellishments that would make a fisherman's tale seem modest. Eleanor and Dr. Hargrove were now rumored to have been meeting secretly for months, exchanging love letters hidden inside veterinary bills and rendezvousing in secluded spots around town. The cafe itself became a character in this unfolding drama. Been there, done that was suddenly the place to be, not for its artisanal coffee or delectable pastries, but for the chance to witness the next chapter of Riverville's very own soap opera. Regulars took up strategic positions near Eleanor's favorite booth, hoping to catch a glimpse of her next clandestine meeting. The barista, a college student named Jake who had aspirations of becoming a novelist, found himself at the center of the storm. Customers peppered him with questions about Eleanor and Dr. Hargrove's visits, offering bribes of extra tips for any juicy tidbits. Jake played it cool, though he couldn't resist adding his own flair to the tale when recounting it to friends. Meanwhile, Eleanor remained blissfully unaware of the tempest brewing around her. She continued her daily routine, yoga classes in the morning, charity work in the afternoon, and yes, occasional visits to Been There, Done That. Dr. Hargrove also went about his business, tending to Riverville's furry residents with his usual charm and professionalism. But as the rumors swirled and grew more outrageous by the day, it became clear that this was no ordinary cafe rendezvous. This was the spark that ignited a scandal that would engulf Riverville in a whirlwind of whispers and woes. And so, dear reader, as you sip your coffee and nibble on your scone, remember this: in a small town like Riverville, even the most innocent cafe meeting can become fodder for the most scandalous of tales. And if you ever find yourself at Been There, Done That, keep your eyes and ears open, you never know when you might stumble upon the next big story. 2. Whispers and Woes, the town's reaction to the scandal. Ah, Riverville, a quaint little town where everyone knows everyone, and secrets are as rare as a snowstorm in July. But when the news broke about the alleged cheating wife, the town's collective jaw hit the floor faster than a cat on a hot tin roof. The scandal spread like wildfire, igniting conversations in every nook and cranny of this otherwise sleepy hamlet. First stop, the Riverville General Store. This place is more than just a spot to pick up your milk and bread, it's the unofficial gossip headquarters. Old Mrs. Jenkins, who has been manning the cash register since the dawn of time, was the first to hear the juicy tidbit. She leaned over the counter, her eyes twinkling with mischief, and whispered to Mr. Thompson, "Did you hear about Mary Lou? They say she's been stepping out on poor Bob." Mr. Thompson, who had come in for a loaf of rye but left with a basket full of scandal, couldn't wait to share the news with his wife. By the time he got home, the story had already morphed into something out of a soap opera. "I heard she was caught red-handed with the mailman," he exclaimed, his eyes wide with exaggerated shock. Next up, the Riverville Beauty Salon. If you think hairdryers are loud, you should hear the chatter that goes on in this place. The moment Mary Lou's name was mentioned, every head turned faster than you could say split ends. The stylists and clients alike were abuzz with speculation. "Did you see her at the last town meeting? She was wearing that red dress, too flashy if you ask me," said Betty, who had an uncanny ability to turn any conversation into a critique of fashion choices. "Well, I heard she was seen at the cozy cafe with someone who wasn't Bob," chimed in Linda, who had a knack for being in the right place at the right time, or perhaps the wrong place, depending on your perspective. The cozy cafe itself became ground zero for scandalous discussions. The regulars, who usually debated the merits of apple pie versus cherry pie, now had a far juicier topic to sink their teeth into. The cafe's owner, Joe, tried to maintain some semblance of decorum but couldn't resist eavesdropping on the conversation swirling around him. "I always thought there was something fishy about her," said Tom, a retired fisherman who believed his expertise in catching fish extended to catching cheaters. "Bob's too good for her anyway," added Sally, who had harbored a not-so-secret crush on Bob since high school. Even the Riverville Library wasn't immune to the scandal. Normally a sanctuary of silence and studiousness, it became a hotbed of hushed whispers and knowing glances. The librarian, Miss Prudence, who prided herself on maintaining order, found herself shushing more than usual. "Can you believe it? Mary Lou of all people," whispered Janet to her friend Susan as they pretended to browse the romance novels. "I know. And with the new gym instructor, no less," Susan replied, her voice barely above a whisper but filled with scandalous delight. The town's reaction wasn't limited to mere gossip, it spilled over into social media as well. Riverville's Facebook page lit up like a Christmas tree with posts and comments dissecting every detail of the alleged affair. Memes were created, hashtags were born, #MaryLouGate, and even those who usually posted nothing more controversial than pictures of their pets couldn't resist weighing in. "Well, there goes my faith in humanity," posted one user sarcastically. "Maybe Bob should have spent more time at home instead of at the bowling alley," suggested another, stirring the pot even further. Of course, not everyone was quick to judge. A small but vocal group of Mary Lou defenders emerged, arguing that people should mind their own business and let her explain herself before jumping to conclusions. "Remember when everyone thought Mr. Green was embezzling from the church fund? Turned out he was just really bad at math," pointed out Emily, ever the voice of reason. But reason was in short supply in Riverville. The scandal had taken on a life of its own, growing more elaborate with each retelling. By week's end, Mary Lou had allegedly been involved with everyone from the UPS driver to the town mayor, who was quick to issue a public denial. The local newspaper, the Riverville Gazette, dedicated an entire front page to the unfolding drama. "Scandal rocks Riverville, alleged affair shakes small town," screamed the headline in bold letters. The article itself was a masterclass in sensationalism, complete with anonymous sources and speculative quotes. An insider close to the couple revealed that tensions had been brewing for months, it read. Could this be the end of Riverville's golden couple? As if that weren't enough, an emergency town meeting was called to address the situation. Ostensibly about community values, it quickly devolved into a free-for-all of accusations and counter-accusations. Bob sat stoically in the front row, his face a mask of stoic resignation, while Mary Lou was conspicuously absent. How can we trust our neighbors if this kind of behavior is allowed to go unchecked? Thundered Pastor Williams from the podium, his voice echoing through the town hall. Let's not forget that we're all human and prone to mistakes, countered Mrs. Green, ever the peacemaker. But peace was hard to come by in Riverville. The scandal had opened a Pandora's box of pent-up frustrations and hidden resentments. Friendships were tested, alliances were formed and broken, and through it all, Mary Lou remained an enigma, neither confirming nor denying the rumors swirling around her. In the end, Riverville was left to grapple with its own reaction as much as with the scandal itself. The whispers and woes that had erupted in response to Mary Lou's alleged infidelity revealed as much about the town as they did about her. And as anyone in Riverville could tell you, once a secret is out, there's no putting it back in its box, no matter how hard you try. 3. Innocence or illusion? The cheating wife's defense. Ah, Riverville, where the gossip flows faster than the river itself and the truth is as elusive as a cat in a room full of rocking chairs. Enter stage left, our alleged cheating wife, Mrs. Eleanor Ellie Thompson, a woman whose reputation has been dragged through the mud so thoroughly that even her shadow looks a bit sullied. But hold your horses, folks. Before you cast the first stone, let's delve into Ellie's defense, which is as intricate as a lace doily and just as full of holes, or is it? First off, Ellie's alibi is tighter than a drum. On the fateful day when she was supposedly seen canoodling with the mysterious Mr. X at the Riverville Cafe, Ellie claims she was actually at her weekly book club meeting. Now, you might think a book club is just a fancy excuse for wine and cheese, but Ellie's club is the real deal. They're more likely to debate the finer points of Dostoevsky than discuss the latest town scandal. And guess what? The entire book club backs her up. They swear on their well-worn copies of Crime and Punishment that Ellie was there, dissecting Russian literature with the fervor of a college freshman. But wait, there's more. Ellie's defense team, comprising her best friend, her hairdresser, and her cat Mr. Whiskers, who, let's be honest, is probably the brains of the operation, has put together a timeline that would make Sherlock Holmes proud. According to their meticulous records, Ellie left her house at precisely 2 p.m., arrived at the book club by 2:15 p.m., and didn't leave until 4:30 p.m. The alleged tryst at the cafe supposedly happened at 3 p.m. Unless Ellie has mastered the art of being in two places at once, and if she has, she should really consider a career in magic. It seems impossible for her to have been at the cafe. Now, let's talk about the so-called evidence. The primary piece of incriminating material is a grainy photo taken by none other than Mrs. Gertrude Gertie McAllister, Riverville's self-appointed paparazzo. Gertie's camera skills are about as reliable as a chocolate teapot. Her photos are usually blurry enough to be mistaken for modern art. The infamous photo shows a woman with Ellie's signature red hair sitting with a man who could be anyone from Brad Pitt to Bigfoot. Ellie argues that red hair is hardly a unique trait. After all, Riverville has more redheads per capita than an Irish family reunion. Ellie's husband, Bob Thompson, has also come to her defense with the kind of loyalty that makes golden retrievers look fickle. Bob insists that their marriage is as solid as a rock and that Ellie wouldn't cheat on him if George Clooney himself came knocking. He's even gone so far as to take a lie detector test to prove his unwavering belief in his wife's fidelity. The results? Bob passed with flying colors, though he did admit to sneaking an extra slice of pie when Ellie wasn't looking. But what about Mr. X, the alleged other man? Here's where things get even murkier than Riverville's river after a rainstorm. No one seems to know who he is or where he came from. Some say he's a traveling salesman, others claim he's an undercover journalist looking for his next big scoop. Ellie swears she's never seen him before in her life, and given the town's penchant for knowing everyone's business down to their shoe size, it's suspicious that Mr. X remains an enigma. Ellie's defense also includes character witnesses who paint her as a paragon of virtue. Mrs. Beatrice B. Henderson, Riverville's resident busybody and unofficial mayor, describes Ellie as the kind of woman who wouldn't hurt a fly, let alone cheat on her husband. B recounts how Ellie once spent an entire weekend nursing an injured bird back to health and how she volunteers at the local animal shelter every Saturday. According to B, if Ellie is guilty of anything, it's having too big of a heart. Then there's Pastor John, who has known Ellie since she was knee-high to a grasshopper. He attests to her unwavering faith and commitment to her family and community. Pastor John even went so far as to deliver a sermon on the dangers of false accusations, using Ellie's situation as a cautionary tale. His impassioned plea for understanding and forgiveness had half the congregation in tears and the other half nodding in agreement. Of course, no defense would be complete without addressing the motive or lack thereof. Ellie and Bob are financially stable, have 2 well-adjusted kids, and seem to genuinely enjoy each other's company, a rarity in itself. There are no signs of marital strife or dissatisfaction that would drive Ellie into the arms of another man. In fact, their biggest argument in recent memory was over whether to paint the living room eggshell or ivory, a debate that ended with them laughing and choosing a completely different color altogether. In conclusion, oh wait, you said no conclusions. Well then, let's just say that Ellie's defense is as robust as a cup of Riverville's finest coffee, strong, convincing, and with just enough bite to keep you awake at night pondering her innocence or illusion. Conclusion. The scandal in Riverville serves as a poignant reminder of how quickly rumors can spread and how deeply they can affect a community. Whether Mrs. Eleanor Kensington is guilty or innocent remains a topic of heated debate, but one thing is certain: the town of Riverville will never be quite the same. As we sip our coffee and reflect on this tale, we are reminded of the power of perception and the complexities of human relationships.